Hello and welcome back to SHRM Session 2, Part 2. Here we will dive a little bit deeper into SHRM. Your learning outcomes include being able to appreciate different perspectives to SHRM, namely best practice approach, life cycle best fit model, best fit, and competitive strategies. At the end of the session, you will also gain knowledge of HR integration into business strategy, and you will be able to identify and differentiate between hard and soft HR factors. There are many ways for us to look at SHRM and how organizations adopt SHRM. It is important to remember that organizations adopting a particular strategy require HR practices that are different from those required by organizations adopting different strategies. So, no strategy works for two organizations. This is custom made, and the nature of these strategies is the very foundation of SHRM. It is not a set menu for all companies. It depends from company to company. According to authors Dellery and Doty, organizations with greater congruence or harmony between their HR strategies and their business strategies enjoy superior performance. In the following slides, let's look at different takes on SHRM by different authors. The best practice approach of SHRM is based on the assumption that there is a set of best HRM practices that are universal, in the sense that they are best in any situation, and that by adopting them, organizations will have superior organizational performance. Best practices act as guides to organizations practicing SHRM. While they will not exactly copy and paste practices of one organization to another, these best practices or benchmarks give them an indication of what has worked for companies practicing SHRM in the past. Although quite a lot of scholarly writers have outlined various best practices of SHRM, Pfeffer has listed 7, which is one of the more popular lists. Pfeffer says that SHRM best practices includes the achievement of 7 aspects: employment security, selective hiring, self-managed teams, high compensation contingent on performance, training to provide a skilled and motivated workforce, reduction of status differentials, and sharing information. Now let's look at the life cycle best fit model. According to Bide and Meshulam, this model is based on the theory that the development of a firm takes place in 4 stages. Now you will remember that this is very much in line with the product life cycle theory that we normally learn in marketing. They are the startup phase, the growth phase, maturity, and decline. Further building on this theory, Armstrong in 2011 has mentioned that HR managers' effectiveness depends on how HR fits with the organization's stage of development. As the organization grows and develops, HR programs, practices, and procedures also must change to meet its needs. Consistent with growth and development models, it can be suggested that HRM develops through a series of stages, just like the organization becoming more and more complex. What this means is that organizations adopting the life cycle best fit model for SHRM, the management of human resources must not be static and unchanged. It must grow, it must change and transform hand in hand with the organization. For more in depth views on this model, read Armstrong's book online for free on Google Books. It is easily downloaded. It is called Armstrong's Handbook of Strategic Human Resource Management by Michael Armstrong. The third perspective in which SHRM is adopted by organizations is the best fit and competitive strategies angle. Now, this viewpoint is based on Michael Porter's theories on competitive advantage of a firm. Michael Porter said that there are three strategies aimed at achieving competitive advantage. They are innovation, that means a firm being the unique producer of a product. Number two, quality. It's all about delivering high quality goods and services to the customers. And number three, cost leadership, the planned result of policies aimed at managing expenses to ensure that you can offer the lowest price in the market. Using this as a base, authors Schuler and Jackson said that to achieve maximum effect, it is necessary to match an organization's SHRM framework with the role characteristics of people in that organization and with the preferred strategy that the organization chooses. For example, if an organization selects innovation as its competitive advantage, then this must be reflected in the strategy across all operations, including human resources. Now let's look at strategy and HRM integration in organizations. Since, as we discussed previously, SHRM is all about how HRM is entwined in the strategy of an organization, there are two levels of integration. The first is upstream, or what we call first order decisions. This is where HRM is integrated at the organizational mission and vision level. It concerns with things like where the business is going and the kind of actions needed to guide a future course. So, this type of integration calls for the consideration of broad HR oriented issues with very long term impact. The second level of integration, and the most commonly experienced, is downstream, or rather, second order decisions. Here, HRM is more involved with scenario planning at both a strategic and divisional level. This type of integration is more related to hardcore HR policies linked to each HR function, such as recruitment, selection, development, and communication. Now, for an organization to truly practice SHRM, it has to achieve both levels of integration. When HRM is integrated to strategy, there are two broad approaches it adopts according to the type of organization that we are talking about. According to author's story, we have organizations that practice hard HRM. What does it mean? Hard HRM means that people are considered to be important resources through which organizations achieve competitive advantage. The focus of hard HRM is on the quantitative, calculative, and business strategic aspects of managing human resources in a very logical and rational way, just like for any other economic factor. For companies practicing soft HRM, employees are treated as valuable assets. They're treated like a source of competitive advantage through their commitment, their adaptability, and high quality of skills and their performance. Now let's look at these two approaches in a bit more detail in the next slide. As you can see here, hard HRM practice has several characteristics. Workers are viewed as a cost to the firm. Managerial prerogative takes precedence over workers' opinions. It is very individualistic in nature. Hard HRM always tries to reject industrial relations. They also reject the difference between viewpoints of employees. Hard HRM emphasizes on working efficiently. And for organizations practicing hard HRM, employees are always considered subordinates to the managers. Now, soft HRM has a more different set of characteristics. It is a more humanistic view, a more humanistic thinking. Soft HRM helps develop core employees. Employee involvement and commitment are encouraged. Also, soft HRM emphasizes on employee relations. There is more concern with what employees think, what are their opinions. And soft HRM views workers as assets. Of course, having distinguished these two approaches, many organizations would practice a mix of them, with more emphasis on one over the other. In the next slide, let's look at some more characteristics of hard and soft HRM. As you can see, soft and hard HR approaches are two ends of a coin. They are different in approach, but in no way is one superior than the other. It all depends on what the organization decides and what works best for an organization. For example, when it comes to employee attitude, soft HRM is more people oriented and considers employees as the biggest asset. On the other hand, hard HRM is more task oriented and employees are hired to do just the job as directed. Recruitment is based on attitude, a person's potential, and how they integrate with the team for soft HRM. Of course, for hard HRM, recruitment is based on the ability to do the job or to be trained. An ideal supervisor for soft HRM means a people manager who works with the team. For hard HRM practitioners, an ideal supervisor is someone who is a task manager who works by delegation. In soft HRM, objective setting is cascading. Basically, team members understand the bigger picture. But in hard HRM, employees only know what they need to know in order to do a job. Work design in an organization practicing soft HRM is continuously improving, it's redesigning, it's very flexible. But in hard HRM, work design is done in the way that it has always been done. It's very bureaucratic. Workplace culture in a soft HRM framework is all about shared culture. It's about working smart. But in hard HRM, a culture is always dependent on the hierarchy. There's high pressure and a lot of hard work. Career progression is very well executed in soft HRM. Employees can plan career growth and there is always a platform for advancement. We see that in hard HRM, employees have more or less monotonous jobs and there is not a lot of career planning that is involved. Soft HRM practices effective and smart systems and tools, while for hard HRM, it's very manual and we don't exactly focus on improving systems. When it comes to philosophy, which governs hard HRM, it's that employees are a resource like any other resource available to the business. On the contrary, soft HRM sees employees as an important and a very valuable asset and a resource that is available for managers. Now, when you talk of timescale, HRM is seen always as a short term policy. Employees are hired and fired as needed. But soft HRM takes a long term view of using the workforce as efficiently as possible in order to achieve long term corporate objectives. The key features of hard HRM are that employees are paid as little as possible, employees have limited control over their working life, communications are mainly downwards in direction, and judgmental appraisal is used. But the key features of soft HRM is that managers consult regularly and fully with their employees. Managers often give control of their working life to the employees by delegating and empowering and getting them involved in the decision making. Soft HRM emphasizes on training and development of employees, and also developmental appraisal is provided. Now, for a company using hard HRM, the likely leadership style is more or less a my way or the highway. Leaders tell and employees do. Instructions flow from the top. In a company practicing soft HRM, there is a laid back approach where the management assumes that every employee can manage themselves. So there are very autonomous workers. Now, in hard HRM, Motivational techniques that are used mainly involve pay or compensation. But in soft HRM, extensive techniques are used to give employees more power, more delegation, and more empowerment. For more reading on what we have covered in this session, click on the link and read Strategic Human Resource Management Back to the Future, a literature review by Michael Armstrong and Duncan Brown.